What if I told you that a simple elevator ride could transport you to another dimension? What if I told you that a Korean urban legend spreading across social media has left a trail of missing persons, unexplained suicides, and security footage that investigators refuse to release to the public? Tonight, I'm going to tell you about the elevator game, a ritual that promises to take you to the other world, but rarely lets you return unchanged. This is the story of Sarah Chen, a 19-year-old college student who thought she was just filming content for her YouTube channel. What happened to her in those 47 minutes of elevator footage will make you question everything you think you know about reality. But I need you to stay with me until the very end, because what Sarah brought back from that other world is still out there, still hunting, and the ending of this story will leave you checking every elevator you ever enter again. Trust me, you won't regret discovering the truth about what really happens when you play the elevator game. The elevator game first appeared on Korean internet forums in 2009, but it wasn't until 2019 that it exploded across Western social media platforms, with thousands of TikTok videos and YouTube challenges documenting people's attempts to reach the mysterious other world. The rules seem simple enough. You enter an elevator in a building with at least 10 floors. You press a specific sequence of buttons: 4th floor, 2nd floor, 6th floor, 2nd floor again, 10th floor, 5th floor. If you follow the sequence correctly, a woman will enter the elevator on the 5th floor. You must not look at her. You must not speak to her. You must not acknowledge her existence in any way. If you succeed, when you press the button for the 1st floor, the elevator will instead take you to the 10th floor. But this won't be the 10th floor of your building. This will be the 10th floor of the other world, a place that looks exactly like our reality but operates by different rules. A place where the woman who entered your elevator is waiting. Most people who claim to have tried the game reported nothing happening. The elevator simply followed normal patterns, stopping at requested floors with no supernatural occurrences. But for a small percentage of players, something went terribly wrong. Sarah Chen was a sophomore at Portland State University, studying digital media and communications. Like many students her age, she ran a YouTube channel called Sarah's Supernatural, where she investigated urban legends and paranormal phenomena. Her videos were well-researched, professionally edited, and gained a modest but dedicated following of paranormal enthusiasts. Sarah had covered everything from the Skinwalker Ranch to the Mothman sightings, but she always maintained a healthy skepticism about the supernatural. She was the type of investigator who brought EMF detectors and thermal cameras to supposedly haunted locations, looking for rational explanations behind unexplained phenomena. When the elevator game started trending in October 2021, Sarah's followers began requesting that she investigate the phenomenon. At first, she dismissed it as just another internet hoax, similar to the Charlie Challenge or the Midnight Man game. But as more videos appeared online, and as some of those videos showed genuinely disturbing footage, Sarah decided to look deeper. What she found changed everything. Sarah spent 3 weeks researching the elevator game before attempting it herself. What she discovered was a pattern of disappearances and unexplained deaths connected to the ritual that mainstream media had largely ignored. In Seoul, South Korea, a 23-year-old woman named Kim Min-jun had attempted the game in her apartment building in March 20. Security footage showed her entering the elevator alone at 11:47 p.m. The elevator's internal camera recorded her pressing the button sequence, but the footage became corrupted exactly at the moment she should have pressed the button for the 5th floor. Kim Min-jun was found 16 hours later in the elevator, catatonic and unresponsive. She had no memory of what happened during those 16 hours, but she kept repeating one phrase over and over. "She's still in there. She's still in there." Kim Min-jun was hospitalized for severe psychological trauma. 3 days later, she threw herself from the roof of the same building where she'd played the game. The suicide note she left behind contained only one sentence: "I brought her back with me." Sarah found 12 similar cases across Asia, Europe, and North America. All involved young people who had attempted the elevator game. All ended in either mysterious disappearances or suicides within weeks of their attempts. And in every case where security footage existed, the recordings were either corrupted or confiscated by authorities. Despite the disturbing patterns Sarah had uncovered, she decided to proceed with her investigation. She reasoned that most of the negative outcomes could be explained by psychological factors, suggestible people experiencing anxiety-induced hallucinations, or psychotic breaks triggered by the stress of the ritual. Sarah chose the Hartley Building, a 12-story office complex in downtown Portland that was largely empty at night. She had connections with the building's security company through her part-time job, and she'd been given permission to film in the building after hours for her YouTube channel. On November 15, 2021, Sarah entered the Hartley Building at 11:30 p.m., armed with multiple cameras, audio recording equipment, and a detailed plan for documenting her attempt at the elevator game. She had no idea that she was about to become the most documented case of supernatural encounter in modern history. Sarah's preparation was meticulous. She placed cameras inside the elevator, in the hallway outside, and wore a body cam to record her own perspective. She had backup batteries, multiple memory cards, and even arranged for a friend to check on her via text message every 30 minutes. At 11:45 p.m., Sarah stepped into the elevator and began recording. The building was completely empty. The security guard was making his rounds on the lower floors, and no one else had access to the building after hours. "Okay, everyone," Sarah said to her camera. "I'm about to attempt the elevator game. I've done extensive research, and while I'm skeptical about the supernatural claims, I want to document exactly what happens when someone follows the ritual precisely." She held up a card with the button sequence written on it. 4th floor, 2nd floor, 6th floor, 2nd floor, again, 10th floor, 5th floor. If the legends are true, a woman will enter the elevator on the 5th floor. I'm not supposed to look at her or acknowledge her presence. Sarah pressed the button for the 4th floor. The elevator rose smoothly to the 4th floor. The doors opened to reveal an empty hallway, dimly lit by emergency lighting. Sarah waited for about 10 seconds, then pressed the button for the 2nd floor. Down to the 2nd floor, empty hallway. Sarah's voice was steady, professional, as she narrated what was happening. "So far, everything is normal. The elevator is responding exactly as expected. 6th floor, empty hallway." Sarah was beginning to relax, thinking this would be another debunked urban legend for her channel. 2nd floor again, but this time, something was different. As the elevator doors opened, Sarah noticed that the hallway looked wrong. The emergency lighting seemed dimmer, and the shadows fell at odd angles. The familiar corporate carpet looked faded, as if it had been there for decades instead of the few years since the building's renovation. "That's strange," Sarah murmured, her camera capturing the unsettling scene. "The hallway looks different, older." She pressed the button for the 10th floor. The elevator rose to the 10th floor, and when the doors opened, Sarah gasped. The hallway was completely different from what she'd seen during her daytime visits to the building. Instead of modern office spaces, she saw an endless corridor lined with doors. The walls were covered in peeling wallpaper, with a pattern of roses that seemed to shift and move in her peripheral vision. "This is impossible," Sarah whispered, her camera shaking slightly. "This floor doesn't look like this. I've been up here before. This is not the 10th floor of the Hartley building." But according to the rules of the game, she still had one more button to press. The 5th floor, where the woman would enter. Sarah hesitated. Every instinct told her to press the button for the ground floor and get out of the building immediately. But her curiosity as an investigator overrode her fear. She needed to see this through, to document what happened next. She pressed the button for the 5th floor. The elevator descended to the 5th floor, and Sarah held her breath. The doors opened with a soft chime, and Sarah's heart stopped. A woman stood in the hallway. She was tall and thin, wearing a dark business suit that looked like it was from the 1980s. Her hair was long and black, hanging straight down to cover most of her face. But what Sarah could see of her features was wrong. Her skin was too pale, almost translucent. Her fingers were too long, ending in dark nails that looked more like claws. The woman stepped into the elevator. Sarah remembered the rules. Don't look at her, don't speak to her, don't acknowledge her presence. But it was impossible not to be aware of her. The temperature in the elevator dropped by at least 20 degrees. Sarah's breath became visible in the suddenly frigid air. And the smell. A smell like rotting flowers and damp earth, as if the woman had been buried and recently dug up. The woman stood in the corner of the elevator, perfectly still. Sarah forced herself to look straight ahead, at the elevator buttons, anywhere but at the figure beside her. Following the final step of the ritual, Sarah pressed the button for the 1st floor. The elevator went up. When the elevator doors opened, Sarah knew immediately that she was no longer in the Hartley building. She was no longer in Portland. She was no longer in any world that followed the rules of reality she understood. The elevator opened onto what looked like the lobby of the Hartley building, but everything was wrong. The furniture was the same, but it was covered in dust and cobwebs as if it had been abandoned for decades. The windows showed not the familiar Portland skyline, but an endless expanse of gray sky and twisted buildings that defied architectural logic. And the silence, the complete, overwhelming silence that pressed against Sarah's eardrums like a physical weight. Sarah stepped out of the elevator, her camera recording everything. The woman remained in the elevator, still as a statue, her face hidden behind her dark hair. "I'm in the other world," Sarah whispered, her voice echoing strangely in the empty lobby. "This is actually happening. This is not a psychological effect or a hallucination. I'm actually in another dimension." She explored the lobby, her camera capturing the impossible architecture, the furniture that looked familiar but wrong, the windows that showed a sky that couldn't exist. Everything was filmed in perfect detail, providing documentation that would later baffle investigators. After about 10 minutes of exploration, Sarah decided to return to the elevator. She needed to get back to her own world, to process what she'd experienced, to share this incredible discovery with her audience. She pressed the button to call the elevator. Nothing happened. Sarah pressed the elevator button again, and again. The elevator didn't come. She looked around the lobby and noticed for the first time that there were no stairs. In the real Hartley building, there were emergency stairwells on either side of the elevator bank. Here, there were just walls. Solid walls with no doors, no exits, no way out except through the elevator. "The elevator's not coming," Sarah said to her camera, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm trapped in this place. I need to figure out how to get back." She walked to the windows and looked out at the impossible landscape. The gray sky stretched endlessly in all directions, and the twisted buildings seemed to shift and change when she wasn't looking directly at them. In the distance, she could see figures moving between the buildings, human-shaped, but wrong somehow, too tall or moving in ways that defied physics. And then she heard it, the soft chime of the elevator arriving. Sarah rushed back to the elevator bank. The doors were opening. The same woman stood inside, in the same position, as if she'd never moved. "Thank God," Sarah breathed, stepping into the elevator. "I need to get back. I need to get home." She pressed the button for the first floor, hoping it would take her back to her own reality. The elevator went up. For the next 30 minutes, Sarah was trapped in an endless loop. Every time she pressed the button for the first floor, the elevator would take her back to the 10th floor of the other world. Every time she pressed the button for the 10th floor, it would take her back to the lobby. She tried pressing other buttons. The elevator would go to those floors, but they were all versions of the Hartley building as it existed in this other world. Empty, decaying, wrong. The woman never moved, never spoke, never acknowledged Sarah's presence in any way. But Sarah became increasingly aware that the woman was watching her. She could feel those hidden eyes tracking her movements, studying her, learning about her. "I've been trying to get back for over 30 minutes, Sarah said to her camera, her voice beginning to show signs of strain. "I'm starting to think I made a mistake. I'm starting to think this woman doesn't want me to leave." And then something happened that changed everything. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text message. In a place that existed outside normal reality, where the laws of physics seemed negotiable and the architecture defied logic, Sarah's phone had somehow received a text message. The message was from her friend Emma, who was supposed to be checking on her. "Sarah, are you okay? You've been in that elevator for 45 minutes. The security guard is getting worried." Sarah stared at the message in disbelief. According to her phone, she'd been in the other world for over 30 minutes. But according to Emma, she'd been in the elevator for 45 minutes total. Time was passing differently in this place. She looked at the woman in the corner of the elevator. For the first time, the woman's head turned slightly toward Sarah. "You want to go back?" the woman said, her voice like wind through dead leaves. "But you can't go back alone." Sarah's blood turned to ice. The woman had spoken. She'd acknowledged Sarah's presence, breaking the fundamental rule of the elevator game. "What do you mean?" Sarah whispered. The woman's head tilted, and Sarah caught a glimpse of her face beneath the dark hair. What she saw made her stomach lurch. The woman's eyes were completely black, and her mouth was too wide, stretching almost from ear to ear. "I've been waiting," the woman said. "Waiting for someone to play the game correctly, someone to open the door between worlds." "You've done that, Sarah Chen. You've opened the door." Sarah's mind raced. "How do you know my name?" "I know everything about you. I know about your YouTube channel. I know about your family in San Francisco. I know about your little sister Emily, who's afraid of the dark. I know about your boyfriend Marcus, who's planning to propose next month." The woman's impossible smile widened. "I know about your world, and I want to see it." "I don't understand," Sarah said, though she was beginning to have a terrible suspicion about what the woman wanted. "You opened the door, but doors work both ways. You can go back to your world, Sarah, but you have to take me with you." Sarah stared at the woman, her mind racing through the implications. "What happens if I refuse? Then you stay here, forever, like the others." "Others?" The woman gestured toward the elevator walls, and Sarah saw something that made her scream. The walls were covered in photographs. Polaroids, phone photos, security camera screenshots, dozens of them, all showing people in elevators, all looking terrified, all reaching toward the camera as if pleading for help. Kim Min-jun, the woman said, pointing to one of the photos. She refused to take me with her. She spent 3 days in this world before she agreed to the bargain. But by then, she was broken, damaged. She couldn't handle what she'd seen. Sarah recognized Kim Min-jun's face from her research, the woman who'd committed suicide after her encounter with the elevator game. She took me back with her, the woman continued. But she tried to fight me, tried to resist. It didn't work. I had to find a new host. Host? Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. I can't exist in your world without a human anchor, someone who invited me in, someone who played the game and opened the door. Kim Min-jun served her purpose, but she was too weak to last long. The woman stepped closer to Sarah, and Sarah could see that she wasn't entirely solid. She was translucent, like a projection or a hologram. I need you to invite me in, Sarah. Let me share your body, your mind, your life. In return, I'll take you back to your world. You'll be able to continue your YouTube channel, finish your degree, marry your boyfriend. You'll have a normal life. And you'll be inside me, controlling me. We'll share. You'll barely notice I'm there, except when I need to feed. Feed on what? The woman's smile became even more terrifying. On others who play the game, on people who are foolish enough to open doors they can't close. You'll help me find them, Sarah. And when you do, I'll feed on their fear, their despair, their sanity. It's a fair trade. Sarah looked at the photographs on the elevator walls. Dozens of people who'd made the same choice she was being offered. All of them had chosen to take the woman back with them. All of them had become hosts for this parasitic entity, and all of them had eventually broken under the strain. What if I say no? Sarah asked. Then you join them on the wall, and I wait for the next person to play the game correctly. Sarah thought about her life, her family, her friends, her future. Was it worth sacrificing all of that to prevent this thing from entering her world? But then she thought about what the woman had said, about feeding on others who played the game, about using Sarah to find new victims. How many people would suffer if Sarah agreed to this bargain? I need time to think, Sarah said. Time moves differently here, the woman replied. You have as much time as you need, but remember your friends in your world are watching an elevator with a girl who's been standing motionless for almost an hour. They're starting to worry. They're starting to think something's wrong. As if on cue, Sarah's phone buzzed again. Another text from Emma. Sarah, I'm calling the police. You're not responding to my texts, and the security guard says you haven't moved in the elevator for over an hour. Sarah closed her eyes. She was trapped. Either way, she was going to lose something. Either her freedom and her soul, or her life and her chance to return to the world she knew. There's something you're not telling me, Sarah said suddenly, opening her eyes. If you need a host from my world, and if you've been doing this for years, why do you need me? Why not just use one of the other hosts? The woman's expression flickered for just a moment, and Sarah saw something in her eyes. Fear. The others, they don't last long. The human mind isn't designed to share space with something like me. They break down. They become useless. Like Kim Min-jun. Kim Min-jun lasted 3 weeks. The one before her lasted 2 months. The one before that lasted 6 weeks. I need fresh hosts regularly. Sarah felt a surge of hope. So you're not immortal. You're not all-powerful. You're a parasite that needs human hosts to survive. I am ancient. I am powerful. You're dying, Sarah interrupted. That's why you need me. That's why you're so desperate to make this bargain. Your last host is gone, and you're fading away. The woman's facade cracked. Her form flickered, becoming even more translucent. You cannot leave this place without me. I control the elevator. I control the way back. Do you? Sarah asked. Or do I? She thought about the rules of the elevator game, about how the ritual worked. The player presses the buttons. The player follows the sequence. The player opens the door between worlds. If she opened the door, maybe she could close it too. Sarah pressed the button for the first floor. The elevator went up to the 10th floor of the other world. She pressed the button for the 10th floor. The elevator went down to the lobby. "I told you," the woman said, her voice becoming more desperate. "I control the elevator. You cannot leave without me." But Sarah was thinking about the original rules of the game, about the sequence that brought her here. What if she could reverse it? She pressed the buttons in reverse order. 5th floor, 10th floor, 2nd floor, 6th floor, 2nd floor, 4th floor. The elevator shuddered. The woman let out a shriek that sounded like breaking glass. "What are you doing?" "I'm closing the door," Sarah said, pressing the button for the 1st floor. The elevator began to descend. The woman lunged at Sarah, her form becoming more solid, more real. But as the elevator descended, she began to fade. Her fingers passed through Sarah's body as if she were made of smoke. "You cannot leave me here," the woman screamed. "I will find another way. I will find you." "Not if I warn them," Sarah said. "Not if I tell everyone what really happens when you play the elevator game." The elevator reached the 1st floor, and the doors opened. Sarah stepped out into the familiar lobby of the Hartley building. Real furniture, real windows showing the Portland skyline, real air that didn't smell of rotting flowers and grave dirt. She turned back to look at the elevator. The woman was gone. The elevator was empty. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from Emma. "Sarah, you just texted me that you're okay, but you've been standing in that elevator for 47 minutes. Are you having some kind of breakdown?" Sarah looked at her phone. According to the timestamp, she'd sent Emma a text message 30 seconds ago that said, "I'm fine, everything's normal, just testing some equipment." But Sarah hadn't sent that message. Sarah immediately left the Hartley building and drove straight to the police station. She turned over all of her footage to the authorities, along with a detailed report of what had happened. The police were skeptical until they reviewed the elevator's security footage. The external cameras showed Sarah entering the elevator at 11:45 p.m. and standing motionless for 47 minutes. But Sarah's personal cameras showed something completely different. They showed her conversation with the woman. They showed the other world. They showed the impossible architecture and the endless gray sky. 2 different sets of cameras recording the same time period, showing completely different events. The authorities confiscated all of Sarah's equipment and classified the incident. The official report stated that Sarah had experienced a psychological episode brought on by stress and suggestion. The security footage was explained as a technical malfunction. But Sarah knew the truth, and she knew that the woman was still out there in the other world, waiting for the next person to play the game correctly. Sarah never posted her elevator game video. Instead, she used her YouTube channel to warn people about the dangers of the ritual. She shared her research about the disappearances and suicides connected to the game. She begged people not to attempt it. But her warnings had an unintended consequence. The more she talked about the elevator game, the more people became curious about it. Her subscriber count exploded as people became fascinated by her story. And some of them decided to try the game for themselves. 3 weeks after Sarah's encounter, a 16-year-old boy named Tyler Martinez attempted the elevator game in his apartment building in Phoenix, Arizona. He was found catatonic in the elevator after 6 hours, repeating the same phrase over and over. She says Sarah sent her. Tyler committed suicide 2 days later. Sarah realized with growing horror that by publicizing the game, she had inadvertently driven more people to attempt it. And somehow, the woman was using these new players to send messages to Sarah. The woman had found a way to influence people from the other world, and she was using them to torment Sarah. Over the next 6 months, Sarah received dozens of messages from people who'd attempted the elevator game. Photos sent from anonymous social media accounts, text messages from burner phones, emails from newly created addresses. All of them contained the same message. "She's coming back." Sarah tried to ignore them, but they kept coming, and they were getting more specific. Photos of Sarah's apartment building, pictures of her car, screenshots of her daily routine. The woman was watching her, learning about her, preparing for something. And then Sarah began to notice other things. Elevators that would malfunction when she was near them. Strange sounds coming from the elevator shaft in her apartment building. Shadows that moved wrong in her peripheral vision. Sarah installed security cameras in her apartment, changed her locks, and even considered moving to a different city. But nothing helped. The woman's influence was growing stronger. On May 15, 2022, exactly 6 months after her original encounter, Sarah was coming home from work when her apartment building's elevator began acting strangely. It would go to floors she didn't press. It would open its doors on empty hallways. It would play the same soft chime over and over again. Sarah took the stairs to her apartment, but when she opened her door, she found something that made her blood freeze. Her apartment was filled with photographs, hundreds of them, all showing people in elevators, all looking terrified, all reaching toward the camera. And in the center of the room, standing beside Sarah's computer, was the woman from the other world. But she looked different now, more solid, more real. Her business suit was cleaner, her hair was styled, and her face was no longer hidden. She looked almost human. "Hello, Sarah," the woman said, her voice no longer like wind through dead leaves. It sounded almost normal. "I told you I would find another way." Sarah backed toward the door, but it slammed shut behind her. "How are you here?" Sarah whispered. "You were right about one thing," the woman said. "I am a parasite. I do need human hosts. But you were wrong about something else. I don't need willing hosts." The woman gestured to the photographs scattered around the room. "Every person who played the game after hearing your warnings, every person who attempted the ritual because of your videos, every person who opened the door between worlds, they all became part of me. Their energy, their life force, their connection to your reality." Sarah counted the photographs. There were dozens of them, dozens of people who'd played the game because of her warnings about it. "You created an army for me, Sarah. Every person who tried the game because of your story became another anchor point, another way for me to exist in your world. And now I'm strong enough to exist without a single host." "What do you want?" Sarah asked. The woman smiled, and her smile was no longer terrifying. It was worse. It was human. "I want to thank you. Your warnings about the elevator game have made me more powerful than I ever imagined possible. And now I'm ready to spread to other games, other rituals, other ways for foolish humans to open doors they can't close." The woman walked to Sarah's computer and pointed to the screen. It was showing Sarah's YouTube channel, specifically her most recent video warning people about the dangers of urban legend challenges. The Midnight Man game, the Three Kings ritual, the closet game, one man hide and seek. You've made videos about all of them, haven't you? Warning people about the dangers. Sarah's heart sank as she understood what the woman was saying. Every warning you post drives more people to attempt these games. Every person who tries them because of your videos creates another opportunity for entities like me to cross over. You've become my greatest ally, Sarah, my most effective recruiter. The woman continued, "Did you really think you were the first person to escape the elevator game? Did you think you were special?" She gestured to one of the photographs on the floor. It showed a young Asian woman in an elevator reaching toward the camera with a terrified expression. "Kim Min-jun," the woman said. "She escaped too. She came back to your world and tried to warn people about the game, just like you did. And just like you, her warnings drove more people to attempt it." Sarah stared at the photograph. Kim Min-jun's expression wasn't just terror, it was recognition. The same recognition Sarah was feeling now. The suicide wasn't because she was broken by her experience in the other world. It was because she realized what she'd done. She realized that by trying to warn people, she'd created more victims. The guilt drove her to end her life. The woman picked up another photograph. "David Chen, no relation to you. Despite the name, he escaped the game in 2018 and started a blog about dangerous urban legends. 37 people attempted the elevator game after reading his warnings. David drove his car into a tree after receiving photos of all 37 victims." Another photograph. Maria Santos. She made TikTok videos warning people about supernatural challenges. Her videos went viral. Hundreds of people attempted various games after watching her content. She overdosed on sleeping pills in 2020. Sarah sank to her knees as the horrible truth washed over her. "You let us escape. You let us think we'd won, so we'd warn people. So we'd drive more people to play the game. The best bait for a trap is someone who thinks they've escaped it," the woman said. "Someone who's genuinely terrified, genuinely traumatized, genuinely trying to help. People trust authentic fear, Sarah. They trust real warnings." "So what happens now?" Sarah asked. The woman sat down beside Sarah's computer. "Now you have a choice. You can continue making your warning videos, driving more people to attempt these games, feeding more power to entities like me. Or what? Or you can stop. Delete your channel. Stop making videos. Stop spreading warnings that inadvertently spread the games themselves." Sarah looked around at the photographs scattered on her floor. Dozens of people who'd paid the price for her good intentions. "If I stop making videos, what happens to you? I'm already strong enough to exist without your help, but I won't grow stronger. I won't spread to other games. I'll remain contained to the elevator game. And if I keep making videos, then I'll grow stronger with every person who plays because of your warnings, and eventually, I'll be strong enough to cross over completely, to exist in your world without any games or rituals at all." Sarah stared at her computer screen, at her YouTube channel with its hundreds of thousands of subscribers, people who trusted her, who looked to her for information about the paranormal. "There's a third option," Sarah said slowly. "What's that?" "I tell them the truth, all of it. I tell them that the warnings themselves are part of the trap, that entities like you feed on people who play these games because of warnings about them." The woman's expression darkened. "If you do that, if you expose the true nature of how these games spread, you'll save some people from playing them, but you'll also doom others." "What do you mean?" "Not everyone who plays these games is drawn in by warnings. Some play them because they're curious about the supernatural. Some play them because they're desperate for something to change in their lives. Some play them because they want to die." The woman stood up and walked to the window. "If you tell people the truth about how warnings spread the games, you'll stop the curious and the foolish from playing. But you'll also stop the desperate and the suicidal from finding alternative solutions to their problems." Sarah felt sick. "You're saying these games are a form of suicide?" "I'm saying that existence is complicated, Sarah, and sometimes the choices we make aren't between good and evil. Sometimes they're between different types of harm." Sarah looked at the photographs on her floor. Dozens of people who'd suffered because of her good intentions. People who'd played the elevator game because her warnings had made them curious about it. But she also thought about the people who'd contacted her to thank her for her warnings. People who'd decided not to attempt dangerous urban legends because of her videos. People who were alive because they'd heeded her advice. I can't keep making videos that drive people to attempt these games, Sarah said finally. Even if my intentions are good, the results are harmful. So you'll stop? I'll stop making warning videos, but I won't stop investigating the paranormal. I'll just change my approach. Sarah walked to her computer and began typing. Instead of uploading a new video, she was writing a blog post. A detailed explanation of what she'd learned about the elevator game and similar urban legends. She wrote about the psychology of reverse psychology, about how warnings can sometimes function as advertisements. She wrote about the responsibility content creators have to consider the unintended consequences of their messages. And she wrote about the woman standing in her apartment watching her type. "You're really going to tell them everything?" the woman asked. "I'm going to tell them the truth, all of it, and then I'm going to let them make their own informed decisions." Sarah published the blog post and then deleted her YouTube channel. All of her videos, all of her warnings, all of her investigations, gone. The woman watched silently as Sarah erased months of work. "You know this won't stop people from playing these games," the woman said. "People will always be curious about the forbidden. They'll always be drawn to danger." "Maybe," Sarah said. "But at least they won't be drawn to it because I accidentally convinced them to try it." The woman faded away as Sarah published her final blog post. Not dramatically, not with threats or promises. She simply became less solid, less present, until she was gone entirely. The photographs scattered around Sarah's apartment remained, but they were no longer supernatural artifacts. They were just pictures. Reminders of the people who'd paid the price for curiosity and desperation. Sarah kept the photographs. She looked at them every day, remembering the faces of people who'd been hurt by her attempts to help. She never made another paranormal investigation video. She never posted another warning about urban legends or dangerous games. But she did continue to write, quietly, privately, about grief, guilt, and the strange silence that follows horror. Her channel stayed up, untouched, like a ghost itself. And sometimes, when someone new watched the old videos and tried the elevator game, a single comment would appear beneath it. "Don't go looking for her. She's not there anymore. Thank you for staying until the end." The truth about the elevator game was worth the wait, wasn't it?